Hello everyone, Ecotech here. In this video I'd like to share you my progress in the quest of finding the perfect microgreen grow light. Back when I started to grow microgreens, I wanted to make a custom light just because I didn't have the budget to buy the fancy grow lights. The first LED that I've played around with was this chip on board, this cob light. It's a purple light that you simply connect the line and neutral to an outlet and it turns on. You get this very bright, intense purple light. Now this LED first served for my first seedlings, however it has multiple drawbacks. The channel Micro actually made a really good video discussing these LEDs. They're not the most efficient and they have the second drawback of being a point source of light, so you have to have it very high relative to your canopy so that the photons have the space to spread out and get an even lighting distribution. So for these two reasons of inefficiency and the distance in the shelf, I wanted to move away to something a bit more compact. I went with these white LED strips. They come in multiple variants, like the one on the right is a bit less dense and the one on the left is very dense, so I went with the dense one on the left and put them in some aluminum brackets with some 3D printed plastic parts at the end for protection. You connect it to 12 volts and you get this really nice even grow light. Now with these grow lights and some made with even more dense strips, I was able to get my first microgreen dense setup. So if we look my shelf here, you can see that the distance between the light and the microgreen trays, well, where the trays would be, is very small, and I was able to do that because if you look, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 strips of these low power but very nicely evenly distributed light. Now while this was good for my first setup, it had a few drawbacks. The first one being that I can't control the spectrum, and the second one being that after running a few in parallel, you start to run into high amperage, so big cables that are messy, and it's just not the best. So I bought this book to learn more about light and plants. This book is fantastic. You get to understand how light affects the plant, what the plants are seeking. I highly suggest you reading this book if you're interested in a scientific approach of how light affects the plants. And it got me really interested and motivated to play around with individual LEDs. So I started to buy these individual LEDs, like this white one. These are blue ones that they come together, but you can break them away and just connect them one by one. These are white. I have far red. I even have red ones here. So if I connect them real quick, I think this is, yeah, like this. Yeah, so I basically start to play around with different spectrums. However, these lights are not the most practical to mass produce. You can't get them on a pick and place machine. So I started to play with even smaller LEDs, such as these ones. Here you have 2 far reds on the right and 3 white ones. And after more research, I realized that the commonly used LM301B from Samsung is the king for a lot of good reasons that I won't go into today. But by using these lights, these LEDs, I was able to make this custom PCB with the lights on it, and if I connect a bunch of them together, like you see on the left, I get a big array of lights with even distribution. And this offers me a lot of possibilities in terms of selecting which temperature coefficient I want each LED to be. I can have the distance between the LEDs selected, and as well as I can set the voltage and choose my power supply. So if we look here, I can set the efficiency and the properties of the light on the left, and I can look at efficiency on the power supply at the right. So I get to have a really good control over everything on the grow light. So if we turn here this knob, you can see that I can even vary the power coming out of the light. Now this light at nominal can run at 100 watts. I could easily push it to 200 watts. However, per shelf, that's a bit too much LEDs for microgreens. And you could even overdrive it to more than 200 watts for even higher intensity plants. And I could also add more LEDs in parallel to get more lights. But this has multiple advantages compared to these shop lights that everyone uses, including myself. One, I get to play with the spectrum, and two, it is less expensive. Since I'm producing them myself and controlling every cost, I've designed them around microgreens, and I can select the exact power I need. I can combine the power supplies together to get an overall lower cost for an entire shelf. And in addition to this, since there's a lot more LEDs that are spread out, I'll be able to, well, the light is more spread out, so I can reduce the distance between the shelves. So I'll soon, well actually after this video, I'll be installing this grow light in this shelf, and you can see that the space is very small between the lights and the tray where the microgreens will be resting, compared to other racks where I have to give a bit more space between these shop lights and the microgreens. Another point is that these shop lights are 20 watts each, but this 20 watts includes the power supply. Here with this light, I have 100 watts just on the LEDs. So it'll be more efficient and more power in a denser setup. I'm excited to test it out, let you know how it goes. Please let me know what you think is important in a microgreen grower light. I'd love to hear your thoughts, because most likely I'll be able to implement them in the next iteration of this. You can see that the wood here is being used just as a mechanical frame. That's the next part I need to work on, is aluminum custom designs that will be cut out and made for this light. But that being said, all the electronics, the number of LEDs, the drivers, everything is still on the table, up for discussion and improvement. I will first test this light for a few months, and with everything that I learn, I will apply it to the next iteration, and with your comments, I'll also apply it to the next iteration to hopefully get a really good custom grow light for microgreens that'll make your setup denser and reduce the cost of the light. So I hope you liked it. Let me know what you think in the comments, and looking forward to discussing again. Bye.